on the need for the outer love of the living master, or love for the master, love of the master in his external human form. Are you all enjoying this stay here?
Yes.
How many of you felt it was beneficial? Oh, I didn't mean merely in terms of good weather, nice sun, beautiful lake around, not in that sense of the ordinary camping at a place. I meant, how many of you feel it was spiritually, personally beneficial? Ah, that's a good number. Thank you very much. That's good. Are you experiencing the GM effect?
Yes.
How many? Wow, that's good. Thank you. We are here to understand the role that a master plays in our life of spiritual growth. The master plays a multiple role. The master plays a role of a teacher who can teach like other teachers about the subject of the spiritual path. He can speak to us about the fact that this is not our real home, that we have another real home in which we reside, in which we permanently reside, that if we do not go back to our real home in the human life, we are liable to remain trapped in this continuous cycle of re-manifestation in different forms other than the form which is our real form in the real home. The master as a teacher comes into our life just to instruct us on the different bits of knowledge that make up the scene of where we are, what this world consists of, and why we are here, why we are trapped here, what is the role of the mind, what is our real essence as the soul, how are we close to the Creator in our essence, how the thoughts and reasoning process is close to the mind and to the Creator of the mind, which is Kal or time, and it is not an essence of the soul or the essence of the Creator. These differentiations in terms which are acceptable to us in our mental, intellectual self, these instructions are given to us by the master in the form of a teacher. But that is only one role that the master performs. A necessary role, but not the most essential role that a master performs. Because this very role is performed by others also. This role is performed by the mother at birth. When we are born, our whole acquaintance with the environment and with life around us is revealed to us by our association with the mother. So the mother becomes the first teacher. Then we associate with other human beings and ultimately end up with the school teacher, who also performs the role of a teacher. Every person we meet continues to become a part teacher for us. So the teaching role is not performed by the master alone, but is performed by several people. The mother, the father, the brothers, sisters, relatives, associates, school friends, school teachers, and so on. If we take a job, then we begin to learn more about this world, more about human nature, more about the miseries of life, the unhappinesses of life, and we keep on learning. So this training process goes on throughout life, and we move through a succession of teachers, including one who happens to be the perfect living master, performing a function like any other teacher. This is an important role, but it is not necessary that the perfect living master should himself perform it. You might have done most of your courses already. By the time you come across a perfect living master, so he just adds up a few more bits of information so that you know that the picture is complete. This teaching role of the master is sometimes highlighted by the intellectual self, thinking this is it. We have found the right teacher, the right master. He has been able to tell us all about it. And that is it. That's not it. That's just the beginning. That beginning could have been accomplished without ever having previously met the perfect living master. So this teaching role is a limited role. Then comes the role of a friend. You need a friend. We all need a friend. In this life, we are all seeking friendship. And the reason for seeking friendship is the sense of loneliness which belongs to all of us. In our inner hearts, we feel lonely. Why do we feel lonely? Because we are alone. The truth is that we come from an origin, a source, which is only one. And that oneness has overcome its loneliness. That oneness in the form of the Creator did a good job by overcoming loneliness by a perfect, continuous, permanent creation of the many. Therefore, that one is no longer lonely anymore. But the essence of that one permeates all the many that have been created. So the many being illusion have resolved the loneliness of the one, but the one remains the reality within the illusion and remains lonely. It is a strange juxtaposition of reality being covered by the illusion of the many, the reality remaining lonely, the many giving the support of companionship to that reality in the form of its oneness. Consider, if you and your consciousness were the creator. Now, I am putting a proposition. It may sound strange to you. It is not a proposition. It may be a real statement that you are the creator. But I don't want to say that, because you say, how many of us are creators? And immediately get back to the illusion. So let me start from the illusion. Since we are so many, assume that actually amongst us all there is only one who's real. The rest are made up, which also is the truth. Did you know that is the truth? How many of us are here? Look all around and you will find, when you see everybody here, you can count how many are here and recognize one out of all this crowd is real. All the rest are made up. And you can also know which one is real. Do you know the sign to find out which one is real? The one that is real will be experiencing the self. The one that is real will experience, I am the self. Therefore I can see others. Therefore I can experience others. When that self says, but so is the other person seeing and experiencing, that is an experience of the self. It is not the self. The self is only at one place. None of you sitting here can ever experience the self at more than one place. And that self is always one. It has never become two. That self which questions, is this self that is thinking about itself, questioning itself, is that real? Or all the others that look like the form of this self also real? The answer is, only the self that questioned and is conscious is real. All the rest are made up. Now, it is difficult to understand intellectually that even while we are having this workshop, only one is real. All the rest are made up. And which one is real? If we were to go around the room, I'll figure out with each one, you alone are real. Because you alone are experiencing the self. And you will get convinced that is true. Then I move to the other one, and that one is real. All the rest are made up. Say, but what is this game going on? How can this happen that all can individually be checked up and give response to reality, and actually the truth remains that only one is real? This is the greatest illusion ever laid out, that the self can be distributed in such a way that it remains one as an observer, and yet puts its qualities of existence as the reality in all the others which are observed. This illusion is the secret how that one overcame the problem of loneliness. Because the only one that is real, when it could create a real experience of there being others with the same characteristics of that one, was able to overcome loneliness and make that experience as real as the reality itself. So this is a grand illusion that was set up, which made it possible. You may take a long time to understand these simple truths I am mentioning. If you go within, it is much easier to understand. If you want to intellectually grasp, it is very hard to grasp that in this audience only one is real, and that is the self. And each one can get up and say, that is me, and still only one remains. So sometimes think over this matter. But the point I was making out now was simply the question that the oneness of this conscious experiencer continues undeterred, undiminished, unmitigated. There is no way to make a duplicate of that self which is experiencing this whole creation. No way. Another person comes in our life and we find that person very smart, very clever, very everything, but it is a person we are experiencing. It is another person. It's not us. It's not the self. The self remains one. There is no way to have two selves. Nobody has been able to split himself and say, I am going to operate from two bodies now, here and there. There are people who have experience of being seen, being heard in two places. I had a strange experience myself. I don't know. You were there? Nobody is here who was present at that time. But that was a strange experience. I was having lunch with one person at 1:30 in the afternoon at a place, and 60 miles away I was having lunch with another person. And they both fought with each other. That our watches are correct. We had lunch with him. So they said, let's ask him. So the question came back to me. Were you having lunch with this person or having lunch with that person? So I said, I remember I was having lunch only with one person. Now who was that? And I remembered that it was a choice. I could have a choice because I remembered both the lunches. But apart from remembering the lunches, I found that when I was having lunch only at one place. So although this experience is possible, that means retroactively I could say I had lunch at place A alone, or I had lunch at place B alone, but I can't remember having lunch at A and B simultaneously. I am trying to point out to you the integrity of the self, that the self cannot be broken up. Even if you can recreate a past for the self, memory can be created, future can be created. All these experiences can be put into the head and we can remember things that happened as if they happened to you. But when they are happening, which is now, in the untimed, timeless now, the only present in which experience is continuously taking place, in this now there's always only one. Always only one self. And that one self which you experience in the now is the only reality. Therefore, it is always lonely. I am trying to bring out the fact that this particular nature of the human self makes loneliness inevitable. It's not that we are lonely because we want to be lonely, because God said, go out and be lonely and find companionship. It's not because of this. We are lonely because of the very nature of our self, that the self is only one. God did a good job for himself. He made so many. He's having a good time. He's enjoying his creation, having so many, and he can have fun wherever he likes. He can go and get into the middle of the ocean and talk to the fish and look at what's happening. He can climb up the trees, talk to the birds, fly in the sky. He can go to the heavens, dance around with the angels. He's having a good time because he has all the power, all the access, all the knowledge. He has everything. He has got all the presence. Omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. He has no problem. He solved his problem. By creation, he solved his problem. And by making creation permanent and making it go cycle after cycle, as long as he is there, he said, I have no problem. What about us? He left us as individuated beings, experiencing the same consciousness which belongs to God. He put it around on a cover and said, now you also go forth and multiply. Go and meet people. Go and meet your soulmates. Go and meet other people. Make love. Make children. Grow. Multiply. See that the trees multiply. The birds multiply. Everything should multiply. Every cell should multiply. Every living thing should multiply. And all began to multiply. He had a good time, but the individual human being in whom this power to know, power to be aware, the soul force, the soul came into being, that individual human being remained lonely. You can't get over it because the self continued to remain one. But under the principles on which creation spread out so fast, making it such a nice game for the Lord to resolve his loneliness in, we began to look for solutions to our loneliness exactly in the direction in which creation was taking place. We thought the best way to look for overcoming loneliness is in the process of multiplication, and therefore we began to seek the opposite sex as a means of reproduction. And if we had both sexes within ourselves, we sought our own self sexually in order to overcome our loneliness. And the sexual contact, or the male-female principle, or the positive-negative principle, or the principle of the polarity became the most paramount principle which has got into the human consciousness or any consciousness in any kind of species created in this whole creation. So a wild goose chase started of finding out which is my partner. Everything in this universe is looking for its partner. The light looks for darkness, darkness looks for light. The little electrons and protons, they swirl around each other. The same game of negative and positive, female and male, is going on in every aspect of this universe and of this creation. It was set in motion like an automatic principle, and it's going on, and this particular attraction has become one of the greatest motivating forces at all levels of creation. The animals are chasing. If you see sexual behavior of living things, you'll be amazed that it is the most consistent behavior. The sexual behavior for mating, for reproduction, for multiplication is the most consistent behavior in living organisms in this creation, except in the case of the human being. There it's messed up by the functioning of the mind. Even this natural function is messed up because of the mind. The mind says, is it right? Is it wrong? The mind says, should I or should I not? And all these questions in the mind of the human being messed up this system like it messed up all the other systems. And the very seeking of the companionship to overcome loneliness raised so many alternatives. One of the things that free will does, which is unique to human beings, one of the things that free will does is to create many options and alternatives. If you didn't have free will, you would have no option and no alternative. The other living things don't have any alternatives. They have built, the instinct is built, if this happens, do this. If that happens, do that. They just follow the instinctive program with no alternatives and no options available to them. The options are built into the program. It's the human being who, gifted with this discrimination and free will, begins to say, should I or should I not? Should I marry this woman? Should I marry this man or not? Is she or he my soulmate or not? Do the astrological charts match or not? Are the signs right or not? The signs are right, but the astrologer was wrong. Something has gone wrong somewhere. All this kind of game that is going on, why are these games being played? For the simple reason that we as human beings with the same power of consciousness or soul of God inside us are trying to overcome loneliness in the most perfect way. We don't want to overcome loneliness in a haphazard way. But experience in life shows when we try to overcome the inner spiritual conscious loneliness by means which are merely the biological conditions and principles laid down for the multiplication of the universe. When we find that that principle is applied to overcome the spiritual loneliness of the person inside, it doesn't work. It just hasn't worked. I have yet to come across anybody where it worked. I am looking forward if somebody says, I had such a beautiful love relationship. I say, congratulations, excellent. I have been married 30 years, 40 years, I have been married 50 years. We just celebrated our golden jubilee. And some people celebrate silver jubilee and golden jubilee and diamond jubilees. And after that, I become friends with them and take them to dinner party. And he says, we celebrated. What a hell to go through. What does that mean? The record they have achieved is like an athletic record. I did the 100 meters. I did 50 years. I did 40 years without breaking up. But what about the internal structure of consciousness? What about the effect? I had friends living in Nevada. One of my earliest friends from the United States, Emily and Charles Ross. Yes. You knew them.
Yes, I did.
Emily and Charles Ross. They fell in love with each other. They said they are soulmates. They got married and they began to fight like cats and dogs. They said, this is not right. They divorced. They separated. They said, but we are soulmates. They fell in love again. They married. They fought like cats and dogs. And divorced. They fell in love and married 3 times. Same party. Same party. That's true.
I was working with her.
So Mary Chehensky knows that.
I met you.
That's when you met me. So when I looked at their state, I said, now what is doing this kind of thing to these people? When they love each other, they feel there is something missing. That is marriage. They should marry and consummate their relationship and have a wonderful time forever and live happily ever after. When they marry, they begin to live unhappily right now. Ever after doesn't come. Therefore, they feel the marriage undid their happiness. Whatever little was there, so they divorce. When they divorce, they feel the unhappiness of separation. So they marry again. Then they feel the unhappiness of marriage. I found in their attempt to overcome loneliness, they try this experiment of marriage and divorce, and both are leading to unhappiness. What is the solution? What's going on? Why don't we find a solution of overcoming loneliness through these institutional, traditional methods? It never happened. Because the relationship that we create through marriage, the relationship we create through having children, the relationship that we create by having parents, the relationship that we create by having all kinds of blood relations and cousins and uncles and aunts and nephews and nieces and grandchildren and grandparents, the relationships we create are all based upon the physical body we possess. The consciousness that occupies the body does not enter into that relationship. That is why these relationships do not remove the inner loneliness. Sometimes it takes quite a while. People spend their whole life questioning, I have lived so long, I lived 75 years, I lived 80 years, I look back in life. There was nothing real in any of those relationships. Because the real relationships would touch my inner loneliness. These only touched my skin, my sensations, my thoughts, my understandings, and no more. All these relationships, we call them karmic relationships, do not go beyond the thought level, which is just a cover and not the source of our loneliness. Therefore, there is no relationship available here in this world which can transcend the mental, universal mental self, which can transcend the physical, the sensory, and the mental self. There is no such relationship here. Therefore, none of these relationships touches the core of our loneliness, which is coming from the soul and neither from the mind, nor from the senses, nor from the body. So what are we looking for? We are looking for a different kind of relationship, and that is called the relationship with a friend, a real friend. Why do you have to say real friend? Because the other friends are already, we tried them out. The other friends communicate with us through our thoughts. The best friendship we can find here, with the most tuned in person, is the friendship where we can be telepathic. I think like this, my friend thinks like this. Whenever I think of my friend, the friend also thinks. That's the maximum that can be done, which is again a mental game. Doesn't touch the loneliness of the soul. Therefore, how can we find that kind of a friend who can touch the soul? Only such a friend can touch our soul, who operates not from the mental level, not from the sensory level, not from the physical level, but from the level of the soul, who has experienced in consciousness, in awareness, a state of being that goes to the spiritual level. Such a friend, when he comes in contact with us, we get a feeling this has touched our inner loneliness, and that is an experience which is not describable. That is why, if we can meet a human being who has that experience, and we come to know that person, that human being has become a friend. Even intellectually, what we thought was a friend, such a person has become a friend. It touches us in the deep innermost self and makes us feel that we are not alone now. This is possible only with such an enlightened being whom we call a perfect living master. Therefore, the truth is, in this life, if we want to have a real friend, we have to have a friend whose consciousness has gone that deep, that when we come to know him, even if we have not found our own soul, but since the loneliness is coming from our soul, when we meet such a friend, the very fact he is our friend can hold our hand and speak to us with friendship touches that part of loneliness, and we feel, now I am not alone. It's a very great feeling, probably the greatest. I sometimes wonder, what is the benefit of finding a living master in his human form when he is also going to die, we are also going to die, it's just a body, just a form. What's so great about finding a human being who's just a perfect master? Why not quickly say, tell me, master, how to go in, and you've done your job, I'm going to do my meditation, find you in permanently. Why do we waste time spending more time with that human being outside? The reason is that human being outside continues to be the only human being giving us this sort of friendship which makes us feel we are no longer alone. Nobody else does it. All other friendships, we seek the same kind of friendship. When we make friends with people in this world now, we are looking for the same friend. We don't want to have unreal friends. We want to find real friends. And every friendship that we make, we presume it will be real friendship. We presume because we need that. We seek that. We start from that. And as it goes on, gradually we find out it is not real. It is just a make-believe. It is just a stopgap arrangement. It's not real. It doesn't go all the way. It goes skin deep, sense deep, and goes thought deep no more. The inner loneliness. I have seen people, they said, we are real friends from childhood. We grown together. We always consulted with each other. And we have been together in every distress, every crisis. And now when it comes to finding out the real truth about themselves and to overcome loneliness, they can't communicate with each other. They spend time together. They try to share everything, and they feel they can't understand that part of themselves which is lonely. So it's no use wasting their time. They talk of everything else. They go to movies together. They have dinners together. They spend hours talking to each other, and they can't talk about that part of themselves where the real loneliness is striking and is not being overcome by all the movies that they see, all the dinners that they enjoy, all the games that they play, all the running and skipping that they do, all the parties that they have, all the picnics that they have. Nothing helps to overcome that inner loneliness, even though they are together. That is because they both have tried to find a friendship that removes the inner spiritual loneliness, and it has not been removed. And when such a person comes in their life, who speaks from the source of love, which is the spiritual source, the soul, the highest source from which love flows, when that love is tapped by them in their spirit, and they are still aware of that consciousness when they meet us and become our friends, and look at us and talk to us and touch our hand, there is something different about it. We feel, at least, I don't know about spirituality, I don't know about God, I don't know about anything else, but the love is real. That's the kind of feeling one gets. Because the loneliness is overcome in a way in which it has never been overcome earlier. This is one of the very important roles that the outer form of the perfect living masters perform. If they were not there in the outer form, where would we go? What would we do? If we don't see them in the outer physical human form, how would we know any of this stuff? How do we believe? How do we know what they are saying is right? The mind is constantly attacking us. The mind is creating doubts at every second, leaves no space unfilled with some question, some thought, some doubt. Every time, and the more we travel on the spiritual path, it looks like the mind feels it is under attack and has to survive, and becomes more active than ever before. And the mind tries to attack in every possible way, keeping us out, leading to an increase of the 5 passions, leading to an increase of temptation, leading to an increase of the circumstances we want to get out of. All these things accumulate over us because the mind puts up this big fight and creates so many questions. And that is the time when we have to seek that friend outside who can show that the love is there and we can trust him. As love grows in our heart, our trust grows. You heard that story of the gardener who planted that little sapling, that little plant. The gardener was putting that little plant in the soil and watering it and putting fertilizer on it. And a young man passed by and he said, "Old man, why are you wasting your time? What are you doing? Don't you see this little plant you're putting up there in the soil is surrounded by so many weeds? And you are watering them and giving them food. The weeds are eating it all up. All this water and food is going to the weeds, not to the plant. How can the plant survive?" So the old gardener looks up to the young man and he says, "Young man, have you ever planted this in any soil, any time?" He says, "No, I haven't done it, but I can see what you are doing." He says, "Young man, I have planted this before. And when I planted this little sapling, this little seedling, this plant, I found that when I watered it, the weeds also ate up a lot of my food and water. They also got the nourishment. But this plant began to grow. It became bigger and bigger. When it became this big, it began to draw more food than the weeds could draw. It still went on growing. It became like a big bush. And when it became such a big bush and the weeds were underneath it, they could neither get the sun nor the nourishment, and they withered and died away, and the plant alone survived. The little plant represents love. The soil represents our heart. The old gardener represents the living master. When the master comes into our life, what does he do? He plants the little plant of love. It's so small, it is the same size as the weeds of desires. Our other desires in life. Oh, I wish I could make more money. Oh, I wish I could do this. I could succeed more in my career. I could make a success of that venture. I could get some help now from master. I have found someone real. My brother could come out of jail. My son could pass in the examination. All these kinds of thoughts come to us. That now is a chance to get all this done. I hope this is a real master with power. He'll be able to do all those things. And the weeds start drinking all the water which the master is pouring for the sake of the little plant of love he's put in our hearts. But those weeds may get some fruition. They may have some success because of the water they are drinking. But the plant of love keeps on growing. Eventually it becomes such a big bush that the weeds die. And when a person experiences so much love for the master, he says, Master, let everything finish. I don't want anything else. I only want you. This process in which the little love for the master can grow into a large love which puts everything else in second place. This process is the spiritual process which takes place in us by association with the outer form of a living master. If it didn't happen, we wouldn't get this experience. We could get trapped in the weeds. And only He knows that the kind of love He plants in our heart does not stop growing because of our weeds, because of our other desires. That the other desires will eventually find their rightful place when this love grows quite a lot. He has His own time schedule for this. So the young man didn't know how the masters operate. And this is how the masters operate with us. They make some of our desires come true. We begin to have faith. This little plant of love is the surest way they have of creating faith in our hearts. As the love grows and we says, oh my God, I don't know if he's a master or not, but the love is real. That creates a faith in God Himself. Because that love, as it grows, is creating a type of faith which not even the miracles can create. Because the miracles are themselves little elements, little bricks that make up a wall. But this love can be a wall by itself and can build up much faster the faith that we need. Therefore, the outer love of the master, our love for the physical human form of the master, and his love for us expressed in myriad ways, in ways which we may not understand, like playing hide and seek, like not letting us see him when we want to see him, like playing around. You know, we have Indian movies. In the Western movies, when they want to show love, they show scenes of kissing, running to bed, you know, all the sex stuff. They say this is love. But if you go and see the Indian movies, they don't show this. The censors don't allow them to put that stuff on the movies. Therefore, they have to show when love grows between a boy and a girl, they run around the trees, they hide behind, they say, I will find you. And that is supposed to be symbolic. Sometimes I feel that God surely, through these masters, plays a strange love game of hide and seek. And they sometimes will appear, not appear, come to our dreams, come outside, come in real life, not come. We cry for them, say, no, I'm not going to believe you anymore. They turn up. It's kind of game, as if they involve us, in a path, so that we are ultimately tied up in no other relationship except the relationship of love. We are not actually tied up in any voodoo relationship, any cultish relationship, any relationship based upon a blind faith or blind belief. All those are broken. If we turn to a master, the human form of a master, with built-in concepts, a master should be like this. A master should look like this, should act like this, should function like this. And we approach a master, he deliberately does things to demolish all our concepts. You see, what is this going on? What kind of a master is he? We are not even sure if he is a master. He doesn't fit in our textbook image. But that's his very purpose. That you are looking for a friend to overcome your loneliness, not looking for a textbook intellectual image and concept of a master which you have had many times before and which keeps you going in this circle of birth and rebirth. You have to get out of your concepts. Concepts are as bad as superstitions. If you can build a concept, you will not let anything come through, not even knowledge, not even love, not even friendship, just because you're holding on to a concept. I want to see God in this form. And God may be just sitting and says, when will you wait? See that. He says, whenever he comes, I'm waiting for the second coming of Christ. Okay, Christ may be just sitting next. You're just waiting. You're waiting for a concept. You're waiting for a mental game, and the only person happy is the one that runs this universe, says, this guy is good, I can give him several turns around. This concept is the best thing to hold him on. The masters, in their physical outer form, they come and associate, breaking all these concepts, breaking all these superstitions, breaking all these mental games. And they start with the real game, the game of love, of spirituality, coming from the inner source of the soul, touching our soul, and giving us a feeling of friendship we have never experienced before. If we did not have any association with the outer form of the master, we would be trapped in our own intellectual concepts. It's so hard to get out of them. That is why they play this strange but useful, wonderful role of a friend, a real friend. There is no greater friend in this world that you can find than a perfect living master in his outer human form, meeting us and sharing his love with us. Nothing like it. You can go and try and find out. When you come back, tell me, there was one friend who was not a master, he was a greater friend and more real friend than the master. I haven't found it. I haven't seen anybody else find it. That is why I say openly, and in a form of a declaration, there is no real friend, no real greater friend than the human form of a master who has become ordinary for our sake and comes to the level at which we are. If we are at a very low level, he comes that low level. If we are at this high level, he comes up to that high level. If we are ourselves in a high spiritual plane, flying, he comes flying in the spiritual plane. When we are beset with doubts and right into the dungeon of hell, he walks down into the dungeon of hell and becomes beset with doubts along with us and picks us up from there. This kind of friendship, this kind of association is not possible except with a perfect living master. That is the big advantage of having a perfect living master as a friend. Then he performs another role. That is the role of what we call a father figure. Sometimes it is called father figure, mother figure, parental figure. Why do we call it a parental role? Because when we are little babies, infants, we have been used to having the security of being taken care of by the parents. We don't have to worry. The baby says, the mama is there to take care of me. Why should I bother? The mama will rock the baby, take care, see that the baby's diapers are changed in time, the baby is fed in time. All these cares and worries are taken by somebody else. And we are, as we grow, we say, now you are grown up. Go out into this world and fend for yourself. When we go out, we are still looking for someone to take care of us. And nobody takes care. We do not have that parental protector, one who gives us that security. So the next role, the father figure of the master provides, is the role of protection and security. And it is one of the greatest blessings we can get in this world. The sense of security, the sense of belonging, the sense there is somebody we can turn to, the sense there is somebody to protect us in case of crisis, is a very great sense. It comes gradually. But this sense is different than the sense of companionship with a friend. And they are both taking place in the same person. Then there is the role of the spiritual companion. That the master in his outer form is also our spiritual companion. He gives us an external image, a face, something to look at, a forehead, a human face which one can look at and fix our gaze upon that, so that it becomes part of our beloved, of somebody we love, somebody we can trust, somebody who is a friend, somebody who can protect. A figure, a form that we can fix in our eyes externally, concretely, in the physical form to which we are accustomed. So that when we do meditation, we have that form available to fix for the sake of concentration of attention, for the sake of spiritual companionship, for the sake of speaking face to face with God. When we want to speak face to face with God, we have no real face to speak to. We look at old pictures and we say, let's put on that face. Say, God, you look like that. God keeps on changing his face. We don't know which one is God. What is being made up by the mind? The mind is just drawing some pictures, or is there some real God sitting listening to us? There must be a real God because He is inside us. So when we speak in prayer, inside God must be listening. We don't know what to look at. So the figure, the form, the face of the perfect living Master in His outer human form, the way He can look at us, can smile at us, give a little hint, indication of who He is, that sticks with us, that little face and image is good enough to help us in what is called dhyan or contemplation. When we want to contemplate and use contemplation as a means for spiritual growth, for spiritual meditation, it's a wonderful, one of the best things that can happen. Also, if your spiritual practice is regular, which it should be, one should do meditation regularly. And one should do it with high priority, because we don't have this chance too many times. Human body, human form, finding a perfect Master, finding the teachings, getting the love, getting His support outside and inside. If this opportunity is lost, we lost a big opportunity. So one should do the maximum of meditation. If you do meditation regularly inside and contemplate upon that face inside and talk to that face as a mask you are using to talk to God. You're talking to God, but we don't know what God looks like. The next best I know is my Master. I put that face in front, so I'm talking. As the concentration grows, that face starts talking. That's the strangest experience. And then you say, are you really talking? He said, of course I am. I say, can I ask you questions? Of course you can. Will you avoid them as you normally do? Not here. Here is a wonderful thing that happens. That you can have this experience of being able to talk to your Master and get the answers back while in meditation. And those answers are correct. And those answers help you to regulate your life. So you suddenly develop an access to your Master, which is not based upon the physical time you can get with Him or the physical proximity to Him. And then you can say, I have a Master all the 24 hours with me. And this is an advantage of the spiritual work that the Master does, because he uses that form to manifest the Shabad form, his real form, in that external form. If we go further in meditation and become unaware of our body, deep sessions of meditation, I hope we will have some time to have retreats and people can experience that deep meditation when you can become totally unaware of your body and you can still hold on to the face of the Master. Like that, the Master glows with light. And that particular form, he becomes the whole being as you know him, except he's glowing with light, with smiles, with happiness, with joy you want to share. You don't want to leave that company. You don't want to leave that companionship with the Master. And he is then called the radiant form of the Master. It is a midway form between the sound or Shabad form and the outer form of a Master. Is the radiant form of the Master. It has a radiance and light which is unmatched with the light of other things inside. And yet it has the same form which you have seen outside in the outer form, the human form of the Master. That combination is beautiful because you can hold on to that and travel anywhere inside and outside. That's a strange experience. I don't know how many of you may have had a strange experience. You can drive a car and see him sitting next to you, the radiant form, and have a chat with him sometimes. Sometimes somebody says, may I sit next to you? But you say, that place is already taken. He said, what? Is nobody sitting with you? But that form of the Master does not occupy any space. It is not even in that dimension. But you experience it as if it is a continuous phenomena around you, that there is somebody with you, that you can walk and talk with that form of the Master and get all the benefits that you want. This spiritual role is possible because of the outer form. Supposing you had no outer form, you say, I have a Master who sends me messages from the Himalayas, from Tibet, from ancient China, and I have found, and he sends me messages, and I believe those messages are right. What do you concentrate on? What do you relate with? Where is the love? Where is all this experience of companionship? How do you know the mind is not playing the biggest game now on you to keep you entrenched in this concept now? That you found a master who sends messages and doesn't appear himself. You say, Master, can you come down on earth and see me? He doesn't come. What kind of master is that? If he's really powerful, he should walk to your level and say, yes, here I am. Don't you see me now? You want to recognize me? See the same face inside. This is a beautiful experience of the radiant form of the master, which is the same form as the outer physical form of the master. And you can see it within. Sometimes you only have a glimpse of it, as if he just comes on the sight and disappears. That does not mean that he is running away. It only means our attention is still so scattered with the outer desires and outer attachments of this life that only accidentally we just hit and tune in for a moment to that concentration point, and when he comes, it pulls back, and so we can't see anymore. But if you ever have this glimpse of the master, repeat that any number of times. Sometimes the master, out of love and compassion, lets you have a glimpse. Especially if you are waiting for a very long time and you say, I don't even know if I'll ever make it. I go to workshops, I see a lot of people say they saw lights and they hear sounds, and there's a continuous sound some people hear. Incidentally, I find a lot of people are actually getting this experience of light and sound. But sometimes they say, we got it once in that workshop, never got it again. Why? Because that little sampling was given by the master by showing it is there. Now at the right time you'll get it again. This sampling was given, it will come at the right time. Right now you know how scattered you are. If you don't know, look at it. In meditation you can always see how scattered you are. Gather yourself up, and at the right time you will get the real thing of which you got a sampling. So these glimpses come, but they are only a sampling of the real thing. When the real companionship comes, it cuts through these attachments so fast. It makes us feel like actors upon this creation. Looks like we have to perform roles. We wear our costumes, which is this body, and everybody else is wearing their costumes, and we have to be absolutely accurate about the script and speak in the high and low tones required of the act, and we have to carry on doing this, and we enjoy it as we act. We laugh and we cry and we enjoy because we are acting so well, and we see everybody else laughing and crying and performing their roles, and we do whatever is required to be done, and we are never messed up by that act because we are aware of being actors and knowing what our reality is and where we have found the real companionship within. So this spiritual role of the master makes the whole life different after that. From that point onwards, we shift to the inner form of the master, and he then reveals even more. For example, when you look at the master inside, in his radiant form, or even earlier, in the contemplated form, which starts speaking, which is not radiant form, the contemplated form, which means the form you have imagined, based upon the external view of the master, when that becomes a source of getting answers, and then you want to talk to that master, then he can show you some other persons. So who are those? They are also masters. And he can show you a whole line of masters to show you that masters are all one. That don't imagine that master is just a person come for a short while upon this earth. That is your master, the one you came across and shared love with as a human being and extolled him to the skies and said, he alone is God. That was your experience. But that experience is not limited to what you experienced. That very master was the master somebody shouted for 500 years ago, looking at another person on the human being. And that was the same master somebody else shouted in glory and joy 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, and will shout hereafter. That particular experience comes to us inside, in the presence of the very form of the outer form, physical form of the master that we are accustomed to. So this particular experience is so gratifying. It answers so many questions. It resolves so many doubts. It puts the whole thing in order. And we come to know, wow, this is the truth. And you are speechless. People come and talk to you about denominations, religions, old masters, new masters, somebody doing, coming through channeling, through ranthas, these tapes, that tapes, all kinds of things people will bring to you. And then you will enjoy it because you can see exactly where they belong. You will also see why they're talking like that. You will see the whole drama, not in the limited span of your own experience, but in the span of creation. How these things have been juxtaposed once against the other according to the passage of a historical time and a historical future, and how they are all pinned together in a stream of consciousness of which you are a participant. This is a great experience that you find within yourself. It explains more than all the study of comparative religion can ever do. That one experience of seeing how this power has manifested as masters, and why it manifested, and what it did, and what it is doing now, and what is the form it takes, and what it will take in future, and why, and what is the meaning of marked sheep, and why masters come and confine themselves to a certain number of people in a certain part of the earth at a certain time in history, why they do that, all will become clear. You'll understand that the masters are predetermined millions of years in advance. You'll find a strange answer. Here we say, let me look for a master. Here we talk as if it is our responsibility, little realizing that by going within, we can see that the master we found as a human being here, whom we can see in his radiant form inside, was earmarked to be our master, the final master, to take us out of this birth and rebirth cycle millions of years ago, based upon a capsule and a cassette of karma, which had already been programmed for so long in the past and in the future. It's a strange experience, but very, very gratifying experience, because it explains everything. Nothing is left in doubt. You are left with no questions. There are too many answers at that time for you to put any questions. There's so much sudden information coming. And how long does that take? It may take about 10 minutes. In 10 minutes of this experience, you can get answers to questions you could spend all your life in writing out and trying to find answers to. So such are the experiences, and all related directly to the outer form of a human being who happens to be a master. It is only then that we begin to realize, Master, now I recognize you. And the master says, are you sure? Because the truth is, we still haven't. I have given you this introduction to the work that these masters do in their outer form, the effect they have upon us in their outer physical form, and how important it is to have love and devotion for the outer form of the master, and how important it is to enjoy the love that pours from them. It is important to have darshan and drishti. Have you heard these words? How many of you heard this word? Darshan and drishti. Okay, I'll explain for those who haven't. Darshan is the opportunity you get to see the form of a living master, physically. When you can look upon the face of a master, it's very, very useful. It's called darshan. When you're having darshan of a master, a lot of your karma is being reduced. Therefore, it's great to get this opportunity to be able to see physically. When you're seeing, you will find that the more you see, the more your karma, burden of karma becomes less, and the element of love in your heart grows. That plant becomes bigger and bigger. That is the benefit of darshan. If the master looks at you, that is called drishti. Drishti is a grace beyond measure. It gives you, it can cut right through a particular problem that is imminent in your life at that time. It can cut through a particular accumulation of karma that has come up and can disassemble that. It can raise the level of faith and raise the level of trust that has never been done by other kinds of studies and books and so on. So this drishti, the master looking at you, is even more valuable than the darshan of your looking at the master. But drishti is really effective when you are having darshan and the master gives you drishti. But supposing you are not having darshan, you are looking somewhere else, the master looking at you, you still benefit, but not to the same extent. Because it is the eye-to-eye contact that creates that spiritual drishti that we talk about. If the eye-to-eye contact is not there, the flow of drishti does not take place to the antashkaran, that frame of consciousness, awareness that is flowing in front, where the accumulated karma comes up again and again and thought streams come and meet. This particular portion of the screen of thoughts and feelings and awarenesses that is in front of us, that is matched only by the power of the drishti, and that affects that screen. And things that are happening on that screen begin to change. And sometimes we wonder what's happening. How can we see this? Some people say, I looked at the master, and at that moment, the eye-to-eye contact, it had never happened before. But that day it happened, I felt a sudden flow of light to me. Or I saw an image, I saw a halo, I saw this, I saw light, I saw GM, I saw this. They give different images of what this saw. What is actually happening is just a flow of the drishti of a master, which we have seen has so much power. It can cut through many of our problems. So what are the most valuable assets we have? While we are still in the process of finding out the radiant form of the master within, and we are still trying to find out the Shabad and that power, which is the ultimate master, which is the real form of a master, which is where the master is directing us to go within and attach the attention, the surat, to that real form, the sound, the celestial sound within, that unending song within. Till we get that form, these are the best things we can have. Have darshan, have drishti if you can get it, and have anything else that can be associated with the memory, with the remembrance of that external form of the master. Like you saw me getting that cup of the great master. I realize it's just a silver cup. It's just a small drinking cup. But how much it means. Why does it mean so much? Every time I see the cup, I can see the great master looking right with those beautiful eyes and with that love that flows through it. Now the cup is not having the eyes, but the cup generates the experience of the eyes and gets the same power like the drishti was giving me. Therefore, anything that we hold dear, anything that is associated, becomes blessed because it blesses us, it changes us, our consciousness undergoes a turn. And whatever comes, sometimes the master may give some of his food to us. And that food has a special effect upon us, not because the food is different, the molecular structure is the same, but the association of that food with the master gives us the feeling that he's now looking at us and giving us his love through that form and has the value of drishti. And we call such food, such gifts from masters as prasad. You heard of the word prasad? Prasad means something that is blessed by the masters. Blessed doesn't mean that they change magically something in there. What the magic is the magic of love that they pour into it. There is no greater magic. They don't have to play any other kind of magic. The only magic the masters know is the magic of love. And when they give a little gift like that, they put their love into it. If you can get love in any form, grab it, use it. To use Clarence's word. This is something that comes to us from the outer form of a master before we have reached that state when we can communicate with them all the time inside. Somebody asked the great master, Master, if we start communicating with the form of the master inside and get all the answers inside, is it still necessary to go and see the outer form of the master? And the great master said, that's when you are most keen to see. Because when you get all the answers from the inner radiant form of the master, you want to run out and meet the man. Why were you hiding all this? What game are you playing? You become like a real pal, like a real friend. You feel that human friendship with that human being outside as never before. Because you realize what game of ordinariness that human being was playing all the time while revealing to us the inner truth of himself later on inside. So we like to go and enjoy the friendship and companionship of a human being in a way never experienced before. So there is no time when we lose the benefit of the external companionship and friendship of a living master. All these truths which I share with you, where did I get them from? They look like truths, do they? They are so true that they are universal. They are not that I was given special formula, a recipe for this truth. That's a truth anyone can have at any time, from any master. Any perfect living master gives these benefits. So how do I share this? Because I learnt it from a master. And I learnt it from doing what he told me to do, which is go within and find the veracity of these things behind the eyes at the third eye center. So let's find that spot, because that will be the answer. Let's actually experience now what it means to sit behind the eyes. Let me once again, at the cost of repetition, remind you of a few things. When we sit behind the eyes, we do not focus behind the eyes. When you focus on something, you are somewhere else. When you focus that there I am behind the eyes, do you know what happens? Supposing you close your eyes and say, there I am behind the eyes, actually you are still on your chair. And you're still on your chair, you've got your eyes, and you're trying to focus in behind the eyes. You still identify yourself with the body sitting on the chair, trying to focus somewhere on a spot. Don't do that. Imagine you are there. Don't focus on being there. Imagine you are there. Which means, imagine that this body of yours is a house. Like this is a house, and there is a room here with windows, and there is an outside place, the lake is outside. Like that, imagine that this body is a house, and this head is a room, and outside the head is another room. And outside the head are a lot of people sitting. Outside your house, many people are sitting. And many chairs are lying, and carpets are lying, and ceiling is there. Outside your mansion, outside your room, not inside. What is inside? Look at it. Sit inside and see what is inside. Don't assume anything. Imagine you are sitting inside the head. Experience the hollow. Looks like there's nothing, it's too dark, we can't see. All right, be there. Wait there. But don't focus in. Don't put any pressure. Don't try to put your pressure on the eyes, that you have to look at something with the eyes. You have just to be relaxed. So far as the body is concerned, you are not connecting yourself with anything happening in the eyes or the body. It's pure consciousness, pure awareness, imagination, pure imagination that I am there. What will happen when you continue to imagine, think, contemplate you are there? The attention will gradually get withdrawn. Other thoughts which are scattering you will gradually, it's a gradual process. It doesn't happen just like that unless you've already done practice. Because we have scattered ourselves so much, gradually it happens. And as this gradual feeling of being there happens, you are again kicked out once in a while. Something you remember and you are off the center. Forget it, come back. No, I'm supposed to be here. Again something takes you away. No, I'm supposed to be here. Come back and continue to be behind the eyes as long as you can. When you feel you are inside the head, sometimes the tendency will be to start seeing with these very eyes, which pushes you forward. When that happens, press with your feet at the floor, eye level floor. Move back. If you're sitting on a chair inside, have some wheels on the chair, but not very smooth wheels, they go right to the back. Once I suggested this in a workshop, somebody fell right out from the chair. Have good support. The tendency to go down is so strong, the tendency to slip down is so strong, that I have always had to say, make it of steel if necessary, this floor. Put reinforced floor behind the eyes. Stamp upon it with the inner feet of your inner self, the imaginative self, so that you don't go below the eyes. Because if you don't go below the eyes, you can't sleep. Whenever we sleep, the attention drops below the eyes, then we go to sleep even in meditation. But when you can stay at the eye level and become unconscious of the body, you are not asleep. You may see everything, wonderful. experiences. You may say, is it like sleep? Because I was not aware of the body. Just being not aware of the body doesn't put you to sleep. You have to see the state of awareness. Are you in a state of wakefulness or sleep? And when you can concentrate your attention on being there, behind the eyes, gradually you become unconscious of the body. Starting from the extremities, going gradually to the legs. It's a gradual process. Depends so much upon the food we have taken. Depends so much upon the thoughts we have had. Depends so much upon the mad fights we have had with people. What we did last night, what we did this morning. All these things affect us. But we will find that out when we are actually doing it. If you do every day, you will find what incident did what to your meditation. So there are so many factors that make meditation difficult sometimes. But do it with love and devotion. When you find that the mind thinks too much, starts repeating the words of Simran, the mantra. Start repeating the words deliberately, gradually, slowly. Why? Because only when you deliberately speak those words mentally in your mind, the attention goes there. If you speak parrot-like, if you speak just like a machine, quickly repeating, then your mind can run anywhere. The mind can think of everything and you're going on repeating. That is not the purpose of Simran. The purpose of Simran or repetition of mantra or repetition of words is to engage the mind in that activity and not to let it go out. That is why look at the accent of each word. Look at the pronunciation. Look at whether you are pronouncing the words fully or not, so that your attention gets gripped into the repetition of those words and the pronunciation of those words, and slowly each word. So you get gripped with that activity of being there. So if there are too many images coming and bothering you, contemplate on the face of the Master and hold it as long as you can. If the sound starts coming in, sounds of birds chirping, crickets chirping, waterfalls, thunder, bells, small bells, big bells, leave everything and listen to the sound. When the sound stops, start contemplation and the repetition again. If you find that you can repeat and still see the image of the Master, and when you don't repeat, the image disappears, repeat the words while seeing the form. If the form stays with the sound, listen to the sound, look at the form. If the sound disappears by looking at the form, listen to the sound only. If both are sustained together, keep them together. If the repetition of the words leads to the sound, and you stop the repetition, the sound disappears, keep on repeating while the sound is still manifesting. Use these combination of three techniques. The technique of repetition, the technique of listening, the technique of contemplation, which are called we call them our own in Surt Shabd Yoga, or the yoga of listening to the audible sound current. These are called the techniques of Simran, Bhajan and Dhyan. And we use all three techniques according to needs, by common sense, intelligence. Use common sense and intelligence. We are not doing any voodoo magic. We are just trying to put our attention behind the eyes and find who we are, where we are as consciousness, not as the body. So do it with love and devotion, with intelligence and in a very peaceful way, and stay behind the eyes. And don't slip down and don't slip out, and keep the body in such a position that you don't slump and go to sleep, and you don't remain so stiff that the whole attention is on the stiffness. Make a via media that the body should be comfortable enough not to take your attention to discomfort, should be uncomfortable enough not to put you to sleep. Make your own via media and then concentrate on being behind the eyes. Now close your eyes and begin. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Open your eyes. Look this side. Open your eyes. Look this side. Did you like this short session? How many of you liked it? Please raise your hand. It's pretty popular. Getting to be popular used to be very unpopular. To do meditation. It's good. Any questions on what we are doing? Any problems in trying to do it? Any comments?
I have a jerk. What does that mean? My body is jerking sometimes when I'm quiet.
Yes, when the attention is pulled out of the body, sometimes the jerk comes in the body. In great masters' meditation sessions, sometimes the body would shake a lot, the attention was concentrating. It is natural, it would come back to normal. The meditation ended.